Okay, so I think we're gonna have to make a little adjustment to the design, lower it about like a centimeter, a couple centimeters to get it to pop over this bottom tube. But yep, that broke it. All right, that's unfortunate. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode here at Rev Render Garage. Today we're going to be diving into a really cool modification that I personally have wanted to install on one of my scooters now for quite a while. It took me a long time to actually justify spending the kind of money to do it. I bit the bullet not too long ago and picked up a universal air ride kit for Honda Ruckus, Mad Dog, kind of scooters like this, and that's what we're going to be diving into. I'm honestly really excited, a little more unique. You don't usually see that on a scooter, so that's what we're going to be diving into. The first step into getting this kit onto the bike is going to be finding a good place to mount the air ride compressor, as that's the bulkiest piece of this whole installation. So looking around the bike already, I've kind of come up with a good game plan of where I think I would like to mount the air ride compressor right underneath this seat, and hopefully have Sean cat us up a simple mount that we can just slide around on the bars and bolt the compressor right to it. I'm going to give a phone call up to Sean, give him some measurements, and see what he can't cat up for us and get sent down to Shane to get printed on the 3D printer for us and get test fitting. So I'm going to hand it off to Sean, see what he can't do, and see you guys once we got a piece to test fit. Let's get to it.
Okay, we're gonna select our plane, and what a good plane we have selected. I just love this plane. Okay, so what we're shooting for is something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but it's going to be close to this because I'm sure the design will change as we get into the caddy. So the idea is you've got, and maybe Austin explained this, but you've got two pipes, and those two pipes run across from left to right on the bike. So what we're looking to do is make a mount that clips onto both those and then has a plate that comes down at an angle, and then it'll give it somewhere for the air ride compressor to mount to. And that's pretty much it. It's not a hard design. I know it needs to be 2 inches wide, and I have the rest of the measurements taken down. So let's get started here. You're going to have the big bar, the smaller bar, and then the plate coming down to mount. Not that hard, folks. So let's get this all saved off. We will get it to the printer and we will print up a prototype. And then at that point, if it works, we'll send it back down to Austin. Thanks for sticking around. Next up, we will get this on the printer. Stay tuned. Looks like the air ride mount has completed printing, so let's go over and take a look at it and see how it turned out. Damn, look at that thing. That looks sharp. Pull it off here, take a look. Oh yeah, that I think is going to work great. Got to clean it up just a little bit. What we'll do is get that cleaned up for you, and we'll take it and we'll test fit it on the bike. Let's see how everything works out. So I got this tested. The bike that I tested it on is kind of buried in the shop, which is why you're not seeing me actually test it, but it worked great. Exactly like we wanted to. So at this point, I'm just going to get this file sent down to the South shop so Shane can print it out and Austin can test fit this on his bike. So let's get to it.
So the first thing we're going to be diving into is this prototype mount that Sean had made up north for our air compressor. So this is going to bolt right onto here, and this should snap right onto the scooter. So I'm going to show you guys test fitting this mount and seeing if this works or what needs to be done to allow this to work. So let's get right into it. Okay, so now that we're over at the scooter, we're going to be test fitting this bracket that Sean had designed and 3D printed to this. I'm going to take it off of here. This is the mount for our compressor. So this bracket is designed to go on this big bottom tube and this top tube. So I'll show you what I'm talking about really fast. So there's a big end and a small end. The big end will go on this bottom tube right here, which most Gen 1s do not have, and then the top tube right here. So put you guys back right there. We're going to attempt to snap this into place and see if it fits. So bottom one on. Looks like the top one's not going to fit, but a little persuasion. Okay, so I think we're gonna have to make a little adjustment to the design, lower it about like a centimeter, a couple centimeters to get it to pop over this bottom tube. But yep, I broke it. Alright, that's unfortunate. So, it does snap over the tube. Only works now that it's broke. So, I think we're going to have to shorten it just a little bit, and we'll be back with the second design of this mount. So see you guys probably another day or two. Alright, so it's now a new day. Last thing you guys seen was us test fitting our compressor mount, and unfortunately did not fit over the two bars here and snapped and did not fit. So called up Sean, discussed with him what was going on. He thought it would be best to shorten this just a couple millimeters and then widen the opening for the top bar mount. So he went ahead, did that for us, sent over the STL file to Shane, and Shane printed us up a new test fit piece. So, taking this test fit piece, went over to our bar, flipped it on the bottom, flipped it on the top, and it's sturdy. I might put a little pilot screw in here just to make sure it doesn't move, but it's a super, super snug fit, fits perfectly. And then once I got this mounted up, seeing that that was going to work for us, I did go ahead and off camera, just to make sure it was going to actually work, went and drilled us some holes on our compressor mounts, and moved it over here, test fitted the holes onto this mount, and it's going to work perfectly. So seeing that, we know that we're going to want this mount in black. So I had Shane go ahead and print us out our final mount, and that is this right here. So I'm going to go ahead, transfer over the screw holes, get this thing mounted to this mount, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the bike. Excited to see it all mounted up and see how pretty it's going to look. Let's get to it. So we're going to start connecting some of the air lines before we start with the wiring for the compressor itself. So I know we're going to need air line coming off of the air shock itself, and luckily these all have push fitting connections, so super, super simple. I'm just going to shove this one right here. Okay, that one is nice and connected. And then, like I said, none of this is going to be my permanent routing for this stuff. This is just to show you the steps you need to take, and then every bike's going to be a bit different for how you're going to route it, depending on what kind of plastics you have, or under seat tray, or just whatever you're going to go about in that way. So there will be a little bit that you're going to have to try and figure out on how you're going to want to mount this yourself. But as far as hooking it up and getting it working, that's what I'm trying to show you. So that fitting to a T. So this is the T that I was talking about. Three-way push lock fitting. And that's going to go right into here, nice and connected. I'm going to grab another piece of line, go right into our compressor. And then I'm going to go right into our T. And then from that point, this T is going to go to our release gauge and pressure gauge. So I'm going to grab another piece of hose, and this is going to squeeze over this. Perfection. I'll grab a zip tie and hit that as well. And then right into here. And that's everything. So leave this right here. And then that is all the airline. From this point, all I need to do is get this power, go right into our switch for our compressor. Back here, there's two little prongs. This will plug in here. And then I have to run a wire from this prong to the battery, or some kind of constant power once the ignition is on, or even straight to the battery as a switch. And then I need to get this ground that came on the compressor. I'm going to cut the wire and crimp on a nice end on there to hook it up to our valve cover, like our harness ground and the ground for our electronic fuel pump that we put on. So I'm going to do that next and start running a power wire. So I'll see you guys once I have that done. Okay, so just to show you guys the push fittings that I am talking about here, that's what they look like. You just grab your line and you push it in, good little clamp in there, and then it's pretty sturdy in there. And then if you want, you can push this fitting in and pull, and then you can see, I'll put it against my hand here, little line there. And that's just a line that it's making an airtight clamp on this hose. So I have that on there, on the shock itself, little T-fitting I was talking about, and then just pushed it onto that little. And then I'm going to go ahead and start on the wiring for this, which is going to have a little fitting going to our air switch right here. And then I'm going to run another power wire from here to either battery or some kind of connection on here for constant power. And then I'm going to take this bolt off. I'm going to grab some sandpaper, sand this down to a nice bare metal surface, and then use my ground and put that right on there. Simple as that. So I'm going to wire this up. All right. Now, diving right back into this wiring, I have now went and taken our ground and just put a nice little terminal on there. And then the power already has a crimped terminal on there, which is going to go right to one side of our compressor switch to air up our shock. I'm just going to wire that on right now. That one is nice and connected. And then I also went and made just a little jumper harness just to hopefully get it working to show you guys. I have it with another crimped terminal for the switch right here. Perfect. And then this is going to go right over here. I just made a little connection to constant power for me. So now that's powered, I'm going to go ahead and come over here, remove this 8mm bolt off of the valve cover, sand that down to bare metal, and then get the ground connected. Everything should be connected. Now, in theory, even with no key, I think that's constant battery. If I hit the switch, it should air up. Look at that. Simple as that. We got air ride on our frickin' Mad Dog. How badass is that? Come on. You hit a little release switch. So I'll show you guys on here. It's at 80 PSI in the shock. Hold and steady. I see no air leaks. And I hit this little switch right here. Boom. Are you kidding me? That is awesome. I cannot believe that. 100 PSI. Oh yeah. That is sweet. Exactly what we wanted to do for this. So I can't be more pumped up than that. That is exactly what we wanted for this. That's exactly what we were hoping to gain. We'll take some time and get a finalized mount for our gauge and all the wiring and airline. And we'll shoot a little picture up once we get that finalized in the video in the future. Alright, so I've now had a little bit of time and I've fully went through and found out where I'm going to be mounting all of the things for this air ride kit and gotten the bike buttoned up. So I'll give you a little walk around of how I mounted everything for this kit, and just to let you know, I did not end up utilizing an air gauge. So I don't feel like I needed it, so I didn't end up using it. So let me show you how I routed stuff. Okay, so just to show you guys what I did here, I went ahead and mounted the switch itself up underneath right here. So that is nice and flush, and then ran the power wire, taped it into the harness itself, ran it underneath here, and then pops up into here. And then I'll show you underneath the seat. Okay, sorry about that. Got the seat up, and as you can see, I got the power from this going down into there to go to that switch. Got a new black mount mounted. Okay, so as you can see, got this fully mounted in here, and got the air lines ran. Got the airline from the compressor going to a T, going back into the air shock. I cut the under seat tray, bent it up, and painted that. And got that on, so once the seat's down, you can't see underneath all that. It looks very clean. And then I ran the air release right here, painted it all, paint matched it blue, and then used an old throttle cable bracket. So one of these brackets that holds the throttle, reused one of those and mounted it right here, paint matched it like I said. Now it looks super good. So give you a little demonstration. All done. I got the switch going to a power once only the ignition is on. So we will turn the ignition on like this. Show you guys. Bike lifts up. Air in the shock. Okay, go and turn it off for you. You see it's all aired up. Then I will hit the release. All down. So that is the air ride kit. Fully installed. Looks badass. Make sure you leave us some feedback, and if you guys end up doing this yourselves, tag us on Instagram. But I hope you guys enjoyed that or whatever, and we'd love to see your guys' build. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Rev Render out.